sir. Thank you.
Sir, now only
Good evening, one and all.
sir, Gandhi sir, principal sir, இப்பதான் சார் லைவ் ஸ்ட்ரீம் ஆயிட்டு இருக்கு. So once again நீங்க சொல்லிடுங்க principal sir. Once again okay sir.
Good evening all of you. On behalf of SMK Formula Institute of Technology and on my own behalf, I welcome all the delegates and the resource. The audience to pay 100% attention to this webinar and make use of this opportunity. I request Mr. Gandhi, the head of the department, to introduce the guest and start the program.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, thank you. Good evening, all. I welcome you to the webinar of cloud computing, SMK Formula Institute of Technology. Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks to management and principal, sir. Guest speaker is Kishore Deenadayalan, Senior System Engineer at L&T Infotech. He is experienced in VMware and Windows specialist. He is skilled in VMware infrastructure and administration. Also, he is experienced in senior analyst at Accenture. He is a VMware certified professional in data center virtualization 5.5. Now I welcome our chief guest, Kishore Deenadayalan. Thank you, sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Gandhi sir, respected principal sir, for granting me this opportunity to have a webinar with the SMK Formula College. So today I'll be walking you all through cloud computing webinar. So I have few slides to present. So I'll give a brief overview on like how the cloud computing works, its architecture, and its demand in the market, and how the enterprises are switching over to cloud from their traditional data center architectures. And before walking through the PPT, so suggested by Vinod, let me play the SMK College video once, and I'll start with my presentation. Let me share my screen. I will start the video once. Hope the video was visible. Let me share my screen. I'll start with the slides. Please let me know once my screen is visible for you. You can leave me IM in the chat window. I will start with the slides.
Yes, sir, visible.
So today we are going to discuss about cloud computing. So, what is actually cloud computing, how it actually works, and what is the current demand in the market, and how we can benefit out of cloud computing. So, going on to the introduction part, as you people start to work in near future, you will very often listen a frequent word cloud. Your company's application is hosted in cloud. Your company's servers are running in cloud. Your company's database is running cloud. But what it actually means? The cloud refers to servers that are accessed over the internet and the software and databases that run on those servers. Cloud servers are located in data centers all over the world. By using cloud computing, users and companies don't have to manage physical servers themselves or run software applications on their own machines.
Sure.
Let me, yeah, yes, we know.
PPT is not, it's only Cisco screen is
It's
shown.
not visible. Okay.
PPT is not a.
Is it visible now?
Yes, right now it is visible.
Okay, thank you. So when we go to this slide, so when a company earlier in legacy, maybe you can consider 5 or 10 years ago. So when a company has to uh, put on some effort, like they used to have a very big data center. For example, if I have to start a company and I have to advertise myself, I should let people know what business I am going to run. I have to promote myself in the marketing. So what do I have to do? I have to create a website. In order to host a website, I would require server, database, so and everything, whatever is needed for the website. So what should I do for that? I should procure a hardware. I have to purchase it. I should select like what appropriate hardware I have to purchase. So I'll place an order with vendor. Vendor would take 2 3 days of time to ship the hardware from his warehouse to my office. And post that, I have to see a place for it in my office. I have to create a data center. I have to install the operating system on that. I have to ensure like I have to get a sufficient bandwidth for it, and following that I have to ensure like the server gets uninterrupted power supply, and I have to protect it from security threats. And also like I have to ensure like the server has proper backup mechanism, because some sort of disasters might happen and the server would become corrupt. I should ensure like I have to take care of backup part, and also like hardware failures. So I have to manage so many things just to start a website. Isn't it a really challenging task? So now after coming to cloud, all these things are completely taken care by the cloud service provider. I can just think of running my business without having the tension of managing the server. What I will do, I'll go to cloud computing. I will see like what server will suit my requirement. I will take a quote from the pricing calculator. These cloud service providers usually give a pricing calculator. You can go to their website and see like how much it is going to cost me for running this server at particular instance of time. You can get the quotation, see the budget, and just fill a form kind of thing in the cloud portal. You create a server and it gets pinned in a matter of minutes. That's it. You are done with your business. You are going to concentrate on what to focus next. This is how like the time has changed now. And that's the reason like most of the companies are moving their data centers to cloud. Managing a single piece of hardware itself is a very big challenge. And just see like how the top Fortune 500 companies, how much big data centers they have, and how it is hectic for them to manage their own infrastructure. When someone else is doing that job for you, it becomes very easy thing. That's the reason market is completely focusing towards cloud. Cloud servers are located in data centers all over the world. You have data centers in India also. They group it under Asia Pacific, Southeast Asia, US, Europe, everywhere in the world. They have their data centers. Azure has their data centers in Chennai, Pune, and recently they have opened a new data center in West India. So those data centers are managed by Microsoft, and their cloud service provider name is called Microsoft Azure. And Google has their own cloud product, Google Cloud, and Amazon has their own product, Amazon AWS. All of them have their data centers in India. The reason why they are deploying all these centers across the world is, for example, a person being here in India, you host your server somewhere in America, so there would be some sort of latency in accessing your own services because the network has to travel all along from India to United States, and you will feel some sort of latency in accessing your actual contents. So that's the reason to in order to fix this, they have their data centers across the world. So by using cloud computing, users and companies don't have to manage physical servers. As I said, like it's a stress-free task for them. They just need to migrate to cloud. That's it. Everything is taken care. So let's go to the next slide. What is cloud computing? If you are unsure about what cloud computing is, you're probably among the 95% of people that are already using cloud services like online banking and social networks, but don't realize it. If you take the banking sector, there is a category by name BFS services, banking and financial services. I would say not all the banks have adopted cloud computing because they have some sort of compliances where certain banks have a policy to host data within their data centers. They don't want that critical bank data be hosted on someone else's data center. That's the reason. Still, some part of banks' applications are still owned by them, but I'm pretty sure in near future even banking sector will also move their critical workloads to cloud computing. As of now, there are some sort of services which are already moved to cloud computing. There are insurance companies using cloud computing, social networks, social sites as well. So, for example, Netflix is one popular streaming website where you guys watch movies, videos, and all. Netflix is already Netflix is already on Amazon AWS. So there are many things like they are which is actually hosted in cloud computing. We are daily using it, but we actually don't know where that service is running in backend. So cloud computing is the use of hardware and software to deliver a service over a network, typically the internet. With cloud computing, users can access files and use applications from any device that can access the internet. For example, I'm going to open a startup company, and I don't have any knowledge on the hardware level, and I have to set up a typical IT applications. I don't need to worry about the data center space, anything. I would just need an internet connection. For example, my employees are about 100 to 150 members in size. I just need to buy the desktops how we use in our respective houses. So I just need a desktop to access the cloud. So whatever I need for my enterprise, I can host all those applications in cloud itself, and then my infrastructure stuff is taken care of. And I would like to mention a point here to correlate with our daily usage. With cloud computing, users can access files and use applications from any device that can access the internet. So if you see our trend of living, like 5 years ago, we used to carry pen drives wherever we go. We used to have some important files in pen drives, external hard disks. At least, let me take an example of government ID cards, voter ID, other cards. So what we do, we keep it in a pen drive and keep it handy with us wherever we go. We used to take it. But now you people have also started to use Google Drive is there, OneDrive is there, where you can put some sort of important files that you need it wherever you go. You show it as a soft copy to someone when you travel in train, and the ticket examiner asks you to show your ID card. There is a no need of showing uh, a direct copy of that file. You can indeed actually show a soft copy, which you don't have in reality, but you can get it from the cloud. That is how the flexibility has increased after cloud come. Then why the enterprises will not choose for it, and that's the reason there is a massive trend change from the initial architecture, the infrastructure architecture, and now the people are completely moving to cloud. And let me take you to the cloud computing architecture. It's a pretty straightforward thing. We have two things here in cloud computing. One is the front end, one is the back end. As I said earlier, front end, we have the client infrastructure. Client infrastructure is the company which uses the cloud computing components. What do they have in their client premises? They don't have anything. They just need desktops and an internet connectivity, and everything is taken care by the backend. Backend is the actual place where the cloud service provider comes into picture, and he manages everything on behalf of you. The pain is taken over by the cloud service provider, and the client only needs to manage his resources provisioned in the data center. What do you have in the backend? stage. You have the infrastructure. Infrastructure is the actual place where you have the physical hardware, a rack kind of big servers. I think you will also have your college's own infrastructure. There will be a rack server where the switches will be there, and there is a server hosting the college's information. You have your own websites and you have your own database. That's how like you also have your own infrastructure. Typically, on behalf of you, the cloud service provider is going to have the rack structure for you, and he will provision the network, and he is having a dedicated storage there. So everything is taken care by the company. It's cloud service provider itself. And there is a storage provision, and to just imagine, if you immediately ask him for 10 petabytes of data, he's ready to offer you that storage. And if you want to procure it for yourself, I would say it would take days, weeks of time to get storage instantly. So everything is ready with you. You actually don't own them, but whenever you want it, you use it on demand. You ask them, okay, you will create a storage pool in the cloud computing. You ask them, I need 5 TB tomorrow, and yes, within a fraction of seconds he's going to allocate you 5 TB storage of data. And the runtime cloud is actually the stack version, where what sort of application you want, that sits in the runtime cloud and the service tiers. So for example, if you want to host a website, first thing is like you will purchase a hardware, you install the operating system inside it, and you run the IIS, Internet Information Service role, and try to launch the website. If it is a Linux machine, what you will do, you will install a Linux OS. It can be Ubuntu OS, CentOS, Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So you will have that thing installed, and you have many web services. For example, Apache is there, Tomcat is there, Java is there, and there are many other things like Nginx. So there are many kinds of web applications you install on top of that, and you run those services. But here is what like it is taken care of, and you have a kind of thing like PaaS, platform as a service. So these things are already set up for you. All you need is you need to concentrate on your code and set up your application and start using it. So they also in turn, they also manage the security part. And you know, like the cyber threats are very difficult to manage, and we also have many kinds of new threats coming into the market, malwares, ransomware. There is a kind of thing by name ransomware, where if your systems are left unsecure, it's not properly patched with the security updates, and the internet ports are not restricted, some intruder, the hacker, will come into your server. They will hack your data, they will encrypt all your database, and they will put a message like you have to pay us a hefty money, you have to pay 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, then only we'll give you the data. Else we will crack this data, put it in a public forum, and we'll leak all your information and put your company into trouble, saying that you are not handling your client's data properly. You have kept every data in open, and we'll put it in a GDPR, General Data Compliance Regulatory portal, and legal action will be taken on you. This is how the hackers actually threaten the organization. And it is a very challenging task, and each company is paying hefty money to the security analysts who make sure that your systems are stable and secure. And I would say the 70% of the security is taken by the cloud service provider itself, and 30% you need to ensure, it's a shared responsibility. You need to ensure some sort of security things are taken care by you as well. So security remains a shared responsibility, but I would say most of the things are taken care by cloud service provider itself. And management, he manages everything for you. Cloud service provider is going to manage everything. As I said, like critical patches or all security updates are needed for to ensure like your server remains stable, and also to protect your company against security threats. The management part is also taken care by the cloud service provider itself. The most of the pain is owned by the cloud service provider, and you just need to think, focus, and start to improve your organization's goals, reach it based on the plans. You don't need to worry about the infrastructure itself. So cloud computing, what types of services they offer? So if you see the traditional IT is something like what we had earlier, and compared to 5 to 6 years of time. So all of these components were in the respective company's data center itself. So the company used to manage network. They will have multiple service providers providing them internet, because if you rely on one service provider and if that particular service provider goes down, your data center becomes isolated and their services will not become reachable over the internet. So they used to take care of the networking part. They used to take care of storage part, servers. The blue colors are the ones like which company uses to manage. So the networking, storage, servers, virtualization, operating system, everything was taken care by the each company's own IT staff itself. That was a hectic thing to do. When it slowly cloud computing came into picture, they segregated into three different categories. These are the typical offerings offered by the cloud computing service providers: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. In infrastructure as a service, when you avail this kind of service, the cloud service provider is going to take care of networking, storage, servers, virtualization, and operating system. Until this, the cloud service provider has taken off your burden. He's going to manage everything. What you need to do, the server is ready now. When you want the server, so you just go to cloud service provider, the console, and you ask for a server. I want a particular server in this configuration, and it will get spent in a couple of moments of time, and I'll show you a demo for that as well. At the end of this slides, I'll try to put in a demo for you to understand like how actually we can provision servers in cloud computing platform. So the middleware, runtime, data applications. This is the completely related with your application. You just need to take care of your application code, write the code, deploy it, and bring up your application. So half of the burden is taken care. So why you use this infrastructure as a service when already everything is taken care by the cloud service provider? As I said earlier, the blue ones are taken care of by you, and all the gray ones are taken care by the cloud service provider. So there are certain applications where you cannot directly avail their softwares and use it. You need to customize it. You do certain things of customization for your own projects, for your own company's requirement. Then you cannot rely on their instant templates. So what you do, until the server level, you get it from cloud. On top of that, you deploy your own custom cloud and custom application and start using it. So that's the reason there are some kind of dependency with infrastructure as a service. And within the cloud computing platform, the transformation is happening very rapidly. In another 5 years, you will not see this layer at all. Everything will become PaaS and software as a service. And in platform as a service, cloud service provider ensures he is taking the burden of networking, storage, servers, virtualization until the runtime. So, for example, as I said earlier, when you want to host a website, I will give a simple example. You want to run a website, so you will build a server, you install the operating system on that, you enable IIS role, Internet Information Service. That's a website where .NET websites are there, ASP.NET. You would have seen when visiting certain pages, you will get an extension in the URL .aspx. So those kind of websites are actually running on .NET. So that will run in IIS. So you need a server for that operating system. On between the operating system, you run the IIS. But actually, when you opt for platform as a service type of service and cloud computing, everything is a predefined one. Until the IAS level, it's already pre-built. When you start deploying the website, within a fraction of a second, you can directly put your code and you can build your website in no less than half an hour. You can get your website in not less than half an hour. So this is some sort of like a instant service for your websites, platform as a service. You can avail this one. And software as a service, everything is taken care by the cloud service provider. You will just pay some money for this, and you will start using this. For example, we are using Cisco WebEx now. WebEx is a software as a service itself. We are not using anything here. We just have a link. So you purchase the Cisco WebEx license from Cisco, and we have access code with us, the meeting access code and password. With just the meeting access code and password, we are all connected Cisco WebEx now. So it is a kind of SaaS offering. You are just using their software and running your show. This is what a SaaS offering. When Google Meet is also a kind of SaaS offering. You just use their service and start meeting guys, or you avail that service. So this is what you call as software as a service. Typically, there are many such features granted by cloud service providers. You can avail them for your enterprise day-to-day requirements. So cloud computing deployment models. So what is this kind of deployment models? We have four such things: private cloud, community cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud. Private cloud came into picture when many organizations hesitated to move their company's data to cloud because they were initially hesitant considering the data privacy. So I'm putting my data in a third party data center whom I don't know, and how can I trust him? So rather than me having the physical direct contact of the data, someone else is having that data in hand. What if someone is going to steal my data? I'm not convinced with the approach. So for those kind of people, private cloud came into picture. So instead of hosting it in a public cloud, so private cloud is something like a cloud environment. Only your company's data is going to get hosted in a single dedicated workspace. So there is no other company's data sitting just behind you. It's all for you only. There is no one intruding into your data. This is how like the private cloud actually came into picture just for the data privacy. Companies, there are certain defense projects, government datas, so they don't put the data in a common data center. They would opt for a private cloud. The defense related security data is there. So IRCTC, for example, IRCTC is very secure. Still they haven't opted for cloud, but in near future if they ever opt for cloud, they might think about going to private cloud. They don't want some other clients data in between of them, so they would opt for private cloud. And if I give a explanation of public cloud, you will better understand the other deployment models. Public cloud is something like I will tell you like who are the current leading pioneers in public cloud. Microsoft has their public cloud offering as Microsoft Azure. Amazon as Amazon Web Services, you would have heard this name, AWS. Azure Cloud is one cloud service provider offered by Microsoft. Google also came into this cloud offering. They have their own Google Cloud offering by name Google Cloud. So these people are usually they offer public cloud. Public cloud is something like they have a common big data center. So many customers, as an L&D engineer, I have my company's data in one cloud service provider, and the other company, who I usually don't know, is also having his data in the Microsoft's data center. And the other, for example, if A, B, C are three companies, A is also having their data in public cloud, B is also having his data in public cloud, and C is also having his data in public cloud. All of them are hosting their data in the same common workspace area, but no one will have access to other companies' data. That's how it is designed, and it's designed by a concept by name SDDN, software defined. Every company will operate in an isolated network as if it is running in their own data centers. How each company will not have any sort of contact. That's how it's actually designed in cloud computing. There is a concept by name SDDN. Every company will have their own isolated network, isolated data storages, isolated spaces. Even though they are running under a common workspace, common server, each one will not have any contact. That's why it is called as public cloud. Private cloud is something like uh, they will grant you a workspace. Typically, that's only for your company. Only your company's data will be there in that particular room or in the data center. And there are certain leading pioneers in private cloud. HP is offering a private cloud. Cisco is also offering private cloud. And if you come to community cloud is something like if you take Sibyl. Sibyl is one common thing which is used by all the banks and insurance companies in India at least. So Sibyl, every bank is having access to Sibyl. If they are going to give loan for certain people, they go to Sibyl and check like how is this guy's rating? Is he worth to be granted a credit card? They check in the Sibyl score. So all the banks will have access to my PAN card, which is onboarded in the Sibyl portal. So Sibyl is used by all the banks and insurance company. So Sibyl is one common among all of them. So they create a community cloud. So all the banks will pay some money okay, I'm also using this civil, so I will give some part of money from mine. So everyone pays for that service and hosts it in a cloud service provider, and that's how the community cloud came into picture. It's shared by several entities that have a common purpose, maybe on-premise or off-premise. On-premise is nothing but the traditional IT data center architecture. When one company used to have their own data center, they used to maintain that. That's called on-premise. Off-premise is nothing but the cloud. Hybrid cloud, as the name suggests, hybrid is a combination of all of this. Any combination of two or more private, community, or public clouds. It's a combination of they will have their own on-premise data center itself, and it will get linked to the cloud. There is a provision for that. You will be aware of a term by name VPN, Virtual Private Network. So the service provider offers that, and you need to set up VPN between your data center and the cloud service provider, and it will get synced up. The on-premise data center starts communicating with the cloud service provider's network, and you can use certain part of services from your own data centers and few things which you would like to have it in the cloud. So this is called the hybrid cloud. So if you ever wish to see and think like how the cloud computing is actually working, so let me take you to a video where you can see like how Google Cloud manages the cloud computing service for all of their customers. So let me stop sharing. I will share the video link once. Let me share my entire screen so that you'll be able to see it. I hope my screen is visible. I'm taking you to the short video from YouTube. So I hope you would have just seen like how hectic it is to manage a data center. So traditionally, when I started to work, I was managing a data center for a US firm. So though earlier they were actually Motorola. I worked for a Motorola subsidiary. So they were a very big leading semiconductor company in United States. So they used to have a very big data center. Their data centers were in US, China, Malaysia, and France. So we used to manage their data centers. Their data center was typically like how we watched the data center in video. Maybe not that much big, but still it was equivalently very bigger to what you have watched in the YouTube. So it was a very hectic task to manage those hardwares. It used to get failed. We used to have a tough time. Managing it, we need to take care of the hardware faults. We need to take care of the server's security and the application availability. It was a very big hectic task. Yeah. Now, as companies are moving towards cloud, the job is getting easier, and the time taken for completion, the implementation times have shrunk so much that you can finish off your job in a matter of minutes. It's not taking you so long time as it used to be earlier. So I hope by another 5 or 6 years, you would see a very dramatic increase in cloud computing. Most of the organizations will have no data centers. Everything will be put on cloud. So let's go to the next slide. As you see here, who are the leading cloud service providers? So Amazon, and this is their revenue for the consecutive years. Amazon's revenue for 2018 was 25.7 billion. That is a huge amount, and the respective cloud service providers, how they have, yeah, how much they have earned in the respective years, and how their revenue has grown. In 2020 itself, Amazon has seen 32% of revenue increase, and Azure has seen 45% of revenue increase, and Google Cloud has seen 55% of revenue increase. So, what does this actually mean? If their revenue is increasing, we can understand that. So, the demand for cloud computing is also getting increased. And I would like to make a point that if someone makes an attempt to get into cloud computing, or they put in some effort to learn cloud computing, they are not like wasting any time. It's like they are fine tuning their career and putting in some decent effort to shape their career. So because the demand is gradually increasing, as you see here, 55% is a very good numbers actually. The revenue has increased. It means that Google was able to uh, meet several companies' requirement, and they were capable of taking their own data center infrastructure to their own cloud platform. And market share, as you see, like, and you get confused if you wish to see like which I have to study now. There are multiple cloud service partners in the market now. AWS is one such cloud service provider. Azure is there. Google Cloud is there. Which one I have to target? Which one I have to learn? This will be a common confusion among many people. So whenever you have that confusion, you go to Google, you search it, and see the market trend, and you realize like what actually. And I would say like most of the market share is held by AWS because it's in the market since more than 10 or 11 years ago. It's more than a decade now. And Microsoft is going to be a decade. Like they have set it up in somewhere around 2008 or 9. So it's going to be a decade now. Google Cloud, I would say Google Cloud was coming to market maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And slowly they are also seeing increase in their revenues and cloud share percentage. And this is the capital, like means like this is how much they have invested further to increase to onboard certain new features, their development programs, and make cloud still a better option for other investors to consider. And you see like Amazon has spent 30.5 billion of their money to increase their features, to expand their data centers, to bring in some new features. That is based on their analysis and trust that more companies will still use cloud computing. And Azure has used 14.9 billion of their revenues to put in some additional efforts to bring Microsoft Azure to next stage. And Google Cloud has spent around 32.6 billion. This is how they are investing for themselves to welcome few more companies for the cloud computing platform. As you can see, some of the customers are Netflix is on AWS, G General Electric, I believe, Salesforce, Expedia, Adobe is also using AWS, Intuit, Kellogg's, Philips, and BP. These are the some of the companies I would say examples for AWS customers, and Azure has certain customers. Walmart, one of the biggest e-commerce giant in the world, Walmart is using Microsoft Azure. Ford, automobile company. Ford is using it. NBC, Jayco, T-Mobile, Daimler. So these are the some of the companies Azure has their customers. Google Cloud's customers are Snap, Home Depot, Colgate, Disney. Walt Disney is there, and Walt Disney. I think like even Hotstar is now indirectly related to Google Cloud now. eBay, Spotify. So, so these are the key metrics, like how many regions they are serving, 69 availability zones, 22 geographic locations. So in these locations, you will automatically find AWS. And if you compare Azure, Azure is available in 140 countries, 54 geographic locations, and with they're additionally planning for four more locations. And in the similar way, Google Cloud is available in more than 200 countries, 61 availability zones with 20 regions. So I would say like the cloud is spread across the entire globe now. So cloud is increasing rapidly. So another 5 6 years for sure, cloud will be a leading technology. And some of the facts and forecasts on cloud computing. So according to Forbes, 80% of all enterprise workloads will move to cloud by 2025. So you can see the demand for cloud computing. The global cloud computing market is expected to reach $623.3 billion by 2023. So this is really a huge amount, and and based on this, you can see like the change in jobs. So the earlier trend was having like different set of jobs based on the data center infrastructure. Those jobs will become least less demand. So the future jobs will be more on cloud computing. There are certain technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning. Those are the actual most sought after jobs now. If you go and search in the job portals, you will see a n number of jobs based on machine learning, artificial intelligence, cloud computing. And there is a certain thing which is going to dominate the employment in another 10 years, that still many companies are in initial phase of testing it, and they have their 10 to 15% of workload already running on that. It's a technology by name Dockers, and there is a new feature by name Kubernetes. So these two things are already there in the market since 5 or 10 years, but companies have not started to use it to that much extent. But yes, the future will be based on these things. And if you ever think to learn something new when you finish off your college, I would suggest you to have a look on cloud computing. Having getting certified in that, it's definitely a good add-on feature for you. And also, as I said, there are some technology by name Dockers, Kubernetes. Google it when you get some time, and see the demand. It will surely increase in future, maybe in another 5 or 6 years. That is going to be the future. And I also suggest you to have a look on data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. If you put in some decent efforts to grab some knowledge on that, so you will be having a sure demand. Considering the COVID situations, each and every company's market has lost their shares. Every company has posted so much of loss that because of this pandemic, we have faced severe loss. And the only platform which has gained most of the product is most of the profit is cloud computing. So many of their companies, considering the COVID-19 pandemic, it's difficult to manage their own data centers. And considering this infrastructure security, the cloud shares has seen an increase of Azure. In Azure Europe location, the cloud demand has increased by 343% percentage. 343 percentage is a very huge amount. So even in this pandemic time, the cloud business is growing in a very rapid phase. And as you can see here, cloud data centers will process 94% of workloads in 2021. So everything you use is indirectly dependent on cloud computing. And when the next decade begins in earnest, more than 40 zettabytes of data will be flowing through cloud servers and networks. 40 zettabytes across the globe. So this is also a huge thing. And 95% have used cloud, but they don't know it. And I will just correlate this with a thing. Most of the guys and people have a habit of playing PUBG, a very reputed game among youngsters. Most of the people are addicted to it, PUBG. Even PUBG is based on cloud computing itself. Earlier, the PUBG game was running on Amazon AWS. Recently, it got moved to Microsoft Azure Xbox platform. So even the game you play, most of the time you spend. So that is also hosted in cloud computing. No one can ever say I don't use cloud. In one way or the other, you already have used it. So that is the importance of cloud computing in the current era. So some of the reputed companies who are using cloud is Walmart, a big e-commerce giant in the world; Boeing, a very reputed aerospace company who manufacture flights. Walmart uses cloud computing. For example, I'll give you a short example. You have Amazon, you get a flash sale saying that OnePlus One mobile is on sale between 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. So those who are going to register it on upcoming Tuesday between 12 p.m. to 1 p.m., only they can purchase the OnePlus One mobile. So what users do? they start hitting the website at a very huge amount. And between 12 to 1 p.m., when the flash sale is on, Amazon would see a traffic percentage increase of 200%, 300%. It is not possible by using their own data centers. Cloud can only help in this kind of scenarios. There are many features by name auto scaling. So you can configure that auto scaling feature in the backend. So there are three, for example, let me give an example. 100 servers are required to process the, this is an example, not an exact figure. 100 servers are required to process the Amazon website's traffic in a normal period of time. And when you go to flash sale, 300 servers are required to process the traffic. So only during 12 to 1, you can have additional 300 servers running between 12 to 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. And once that 1 p.m. timestamp goes off, the server counts will automatically come down to 100 servers. In this way, you can optimally allocate the resources. Only to certain period of time, there is an increased load and you are increasing your number of servers. And after the load goes down, it automatically scales down without any manual intervention. So earlier, this kind of task was a very hectic thing to manage when you have your own data centers. After this cloud computing things, many automations are there. The manual task is very less. That's the reason, like you see, so many layoffs happening in the IT industry. Earlier, this task was supposed to be handled by a 30-40 member sitting in a workspace. Now you hardly need 2 or 3 members to do this task. And you could imagine the workforce has shrunken so much. 40, 50 people used to work, and now only 3 people are using that. And the one who is having an abundant knowledge on cloud or the other platforms, as I said, data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, those number of jobs are only going to sustain in the market. And cloud security is also something you can focus to learn on. And other clients are Boeing is an aerospace company. They track their flights data through cloud computing platform. Each flight is going with India, New Delhi, and it goes to India to London, and flight makes a transit, and the flight's data is recorded in a website by name flightradar.com. So indirectly, so Boeing is availing Microsoft Azure to track that data, flights data. They have an application running in the cloud which tracks the flight data. And PayPal, one of the biggest payment processing giant, PayPal is also using cloud computing. Some of the Indian companies, so that like you will have a better idea. So which companies are those? So you can see Go Ibibo. So it's like an OYO where you avail services to book a hotel when you go for a tour or you go for an official meetings in different cities. You can Go Ibibo is hosted on Google Cloud. Dr. Agarwal's Eye Hospital, it's famous in Chennai, and you know it's there in many locations across India. Even they have their data in cloud computing space. Grofers, they deliver groceries over websites. Hero Motor Corp, Max Life Insurance, even a Pizza Hut is also having their data in cloud computing platform. As you can see, this is just to correlate the adoption level. How many companies are just trying to move to cloud? And I'm done with my slides. I just don't want to put in so much of PPT content and just a theoretical data. So I will take you to Google Cloud Console. I will show how to deploy a server in cloud computing platform. So earlier it used to take so many days. Now you're going to see it, and it is going to happen in a couple of minutes. The effort is very less here. So let me share my screen once again. I'll stop sharing my PowerPoint presentation. I will share my browser window. So how do you reach the Google Cloud platform? So this is the URL, console.cloud.google.com. And this is the console. This is where you actually provision all of your organization's requirements in a common cloud platform. You need to just go here, and you can see they have many services offering here. App Engine is a website service where you can go and start your website in a couple of minutes. It's not going to take you much of the time. As on as when you provision this, the website service immediately comes up. You just need to put in your own code. Most of you would have been a very expert in HTML, CSS coding. So you just need to put in those styles and data, forms, options, menu, sign in, go to next page, scroll down, scroll up. So those kind of coding you just need to do. Put that code inside this app engine. Your website is ready. It will spin up in a couple of minutes. And if you go to compute engine, that is where you actually provision a server. So there are many features. As I said, Kubernetes is there. Kubernetes is some sort of feature. As I said, Amazon uh, runs a flash sale, and they want to increase the count of servers from 100 to 300 between 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. So Kubernetes ensures that the auto scaling happens smoothly, and it ensures that the website's requirements are catered with a proper good customer experience. How do you feel like when you actually have plan to buy that mobile and you go to that payment page, you do your payment, but payment gets denied? You really feel bad for it. So Kubernetes makes sure that the shopping experience is completely better. So you need to provision a Kubernetes engine, and there will be a concept by name Node Pool. And so the node pool, inside the node pool, you have everything, the multiple virtual machines, and it gets auto scaled based on the requirements. So all these features are there. So let me go to the compute engine. This is the actual place where you actually deploy a server in cloud platform. So you have to go to compute engine. I will go to VM instance. VM instance stands for virtual machine instances. So I get an option to create it. I click on that. Let me name my instance name. I will put it SMK Fomra demo. So, which location you want that server? As I said, like Google, all the cloud data centers are hosted across the world. So they have their data centers in all these locations: North America, South America, yeah, everywhere. So Europe. So we are in Asia. I just went to Asia. It appears like Google has their primary data center in Mumbai. So I just choose Mumbai since because this is the nearest location to me. I don't want to have much network latency. I choose the nearest location, and this is the region. Within that region, they have three zones: Asia South one, C, B, and A. So I would say like one will be in Mumbai and one will be in Pune, and the other zone will be in some other state, maybe nearest to that location. This is because they ensure that redundancy is available. For example, Mumbai is getting a worst hit flood. For example, Azure has their data center in Chennai, one in Pune, and newly they have opened a data center in West India. So in Chennai, we were hit by Varda flood. Just think what would happen if the data center is affected by one or the other issues. When we were hit by Varda cyclone, we lost power for 7 or 10 days. We didn't have a proper power supply. So running the data center with generator, so everything is a very hectic task. So for some reasons, if one data center is going down, the data will be available from the other zone. That's the reason you will have one region and different zones. And this naming convention is different for different cloud service providers. Some would say the geographical location, some would say the availability zone, but it will be in different names for different cloud service providers. More or less, the concept is going to be the same. So I would choose South B as my zone, and I will put what is the configuration that I require. As you could see here, two CPUs, 7.5, as we have in our laptops and desktop, how much RAM we want. So everything is there. I can choose like whatever RAM or memory is needed. I would choose that appropriate option and do you want any GPUs? GPUs is some graphical processing interface actually. So you would use it for data science and machine learning, where there is a huge compute demand, and you would need certain graphics features to work on your virtual, because like you present some graphical data for clients forecast. Google gives you some suggestions, right? It's cloudy today, it might rain, and you go to certain areas and you see the Google map. It shows like probably it will take 50 minutes for you to reach certain point of time. It's all based on artificial intelligence and machine learning. It calculates different traffic trends and give you certain appropriate data, and of course based on real time traffic. So for all those kind of calculations and all, if you choose for if you are building this VM for data science and artificial intelligence, you need to include GPUs also. For now, since this is a very basic demo, I will choose a very normal VM. And you can also choose what sort of processor you use. When we used to buy desktops, we were getting an option to use different kinds of processors. Motherboards we used to purchase Asus is one motherboard, Intel motherboard, and Mercury. There are different kinds of motherboards. We used to choose it based on our requirement. In the similar way, everything is offered here in the custom operation. So you can choose whatever is the requirement, you can choose it and go to the next operation. So what operating system you are going to use? You have many operating systems here: Red Hat Enterprise Linux, Debian. If you are going to use Windows Server, you can select them. Let me choose the Debian Linux version here. So how much size of GB you want, that also you can put. Okay, I'm going to select it. And if you are building a web server, if you are going to host a website in this server, you're supposed to check this option. It will ensure that it will allow the website traffic to the VM. And you can also think about the management. You can also put the description. At later point of time, you need to understand why this VM is created. This is a web server. I'm sure web server created during demo. I just put this as my description. This option is like enable deletion protection. We never know what human errors can occur while we actually use the cloud computing platform. So by accidentally, if we delete the VM, it will not let you delete. It will tell this VM is protected with deletion protection. You need to disable that and delete. This in way ensures that you accidentally don't delete this VM. So in security, there are many things, and you could make use of this to secure your virtual machine. And if you want to add additional disks, you can add here. For example, 10 GB is a default disk and you would require 100 GB. Yes, you can add a new disk and specify the number, how much GB you want, and Google is going to get you that data. And networking, so in networking, you get multiple options. So security features are there. Who can access your virtual machine? For example, even if you have my credentials, I don't want you to access the VM. Yes, we can put in a tag which ensures that it will not let you access the virtual machine from outside. So this allows remote connections to the server. For example, if I have to allow connections from my house to this particular VM, what I will do, I'll put in a role default allow SSH. This option ensures that I can connect this VM from anywhere in the world with the IP. If you don't put it, it is not going to let you inside. So this is how secure and simple it is to manage the cloud computing. Just this rule, I just typed default allow SSH. This rule is going to make sure that I can access this VM from outside. And if I take this out, I cannot access this VM. So this is how the management will work in. And I just leave the other options as default. There is an option how flexible is cloud. I will just give an example here. Preemptability. For example, you just need this VM for running a temporary jobs. You can set this to on. This preemptable option will make sure that this VM will run only for 24 hours. After that, once your job is completed, this VM will get automatically deleted. You don't need to consider about deleting it. It will get automatically deleted so that you will not be charged for the virtual machine. All the cloud service providers will charge you based on per second. For example, if your VM is running for 10 days, you will be charged only for the 10 days. For example, my VM is running for 10 days, 12 hours, 11 minutes, 13 seconds. You will be charged only for that duration, including seconds. In this way, you are paying only for what you are using. If you are stopping that, you are not going to get charged. So this is how flexible the cloud is actually. So I just leave the options default and I start creating the server. I clicked on creating instance now. Server is getting created in the backend. As soon as the server is ready, I could see a green icon here and I will get the public IP address of the virtual machine. And as you have seen here, it didn't take more than 30 seconds to create a server. This is a very rapid process. I just clicked a create and the VM is ready in just 30 seconds. So this is the IP address of that particular server. We can copy it. Now we will try to set up a website. Okay. So I'm going to hit it with the IP address. Server is not yet ready. So the website is not running now. What I will do, I will take the remote of that server now. I will try to set up a test website now. And you could see how rapid process is this development. I hope you are able to see this current session, like where I hope you are able to see the server session now. I'm inside a putty window now, so let me know if you are not able to see it. I'm going to set up a very basic website. So this is a command which will update the package indexes in the server. So it is getting updated now. Once this is done, I'll start to deploy my web server application. I need to make sure that there is a firewall in the VM. What I will do, I will just the firewall is getting ready now. Now I am going to install a web application which will make sure that I can run websites from this machine. So let me start that web application now. I have installed Nginx, which is a web web application. Make sure that you can run Nginx websites from this server. I made a typo. Yeah. Now let me try to reach the URL with the server IP address. I hope you are able to view it now. Are you able to view the screen now?
Yes, Kishore. Yes.
So as you can see here, the Nginx website is ready. This is the sample page. The default Nginx website has started to respond from this IP address. Earlier, when we hit that website, it was not accessible. What I did is I quickly spinned a VM and I set up Nginx in the VM and I configured it. So now the Nginx website is ready. You can also customize it. If you go to that particular page configuration, you can all edit the home page and start customizing your website. can do that. Let me show you. I'll put in some text inside it. Listen back directly.
You sure?
Yes, Vinod.
The screen is not, it's only Cisco WebEx screen is displayed there.
Okay. 1 second. Let me share my entire screen if possible.
Okay.
So what I'm doing is actually here. So I have just updated the Nginx file here. So I just updated. Is it visible now, Vinod? I just switched toggled my screen to the putty session.
Yes, it is visible. Yes, sir. Putty screen is
So I just, yeah, what I did is like I just updated the few text in the Nginx configuration. So I'm just going to save it. Yes. So I just updated the Nginx data now. I will refresh my screen. So 1 second. Let me share my screen again. So if you can see here, I will just hit the IP address now. You would see the changes, whatever has happened. Now it will serve a different test. So it started to show this text whatever we have updated in the server. So this is how rapidly, this is just a very basic example. The primary intention of doing this is like I want to make sure like you can understand how simple it is to start a service, run the show in cloud computing. That's the reason I just created a temporary VM and I installed Nginx in it and created a very basic sample website. So this is how the cloud computing works. And if you go still bit deeper inside, there are lot more to explore and learn. And I would suggest like you some of your time, you spend some of your time in learning cloud computing, as the market demand has completely changed to different set of jobs now. Wherever you go, you will find jobs based on cloud computing, data science, intelligence, machine learning, and you can also put in some efforts on security stuffs, networking security, and it will be a very good future for you if you invest some time in learning this latest technologies. So with this, I conclude my session, and I thank everyone for giving me this opportunity and sitting with me patiently here. And yeah, thanks for everyone.
Yeah. Kishore,
I
there's some questions now. Questions asked in the
yeah.
Facebook page.
Okay.
Security becomes a huge concern in cloud computing. So how it can
Yeah.
be addressed or overcome?
So there are many features within cloud computing. There is a feature by name Network Security Group in Azure. So there are it mostly like it takes care of all the networking related stuffs. So where you want to block the ports, where you can increase the security. So this is a granular control, like where you can actually restrict the people from accessing your servers inside the cloud. It's like you are putting your data in cloud, but you still have the control who is going to access within the organization itself. You can still set a control who can access what resources at certain point of time. And there are many other tools inside the cloud computing portal itself where it will list out all the misconfigurations that you have made. You are supposed to change the settings, you have made the settings vulnerable, and you are supposed to do all these things. So cloud security, as I said earlier, it is a shared responsibility. The cloud service provider ensures your data is secure at their end. Where the data gets stored, all those data remains encrypted. So even if someone is going to steal the data from cloud computing and they try to put it in their device and open it, it is of no use. It because it is encrypted at the cloud service provider end. No one can read the data what you have been using that cloud data center. So there are many kind of uh, security mechanisms and protocols to ensure your data is very secure. So we just need to follow their recommendations. They will give certain recommendations and we need to follow it to ensure that the data remains safe.
Now there's one more question, Kishore, in
Yeah.
Facebook. Which cloud service provider is best and cost effective?
Cost. So I would say there are some services which are a bit cheaper in AWS, and there are some services which are cheaper in GCP, Google Cloud Platform. Cost, I would say, like it's equally, it's the same among everyone. And as of now, AWS is the leading market shareholder. We did see in one of the slide. You can see from there, like they are having the majority stake of the cloud computing projects, and next is followed by Microsoft Azure. AWS is the first company. I would say not in terms of rank, in terms of market share, AWS is the first one, and Azure is the second company who is having a leading market share, followed by Google Cloud. And there are other cloud services providers which are classified into others because their market share is very less. Alibaba Cloud is there, which is in China, and IBM is also having their own cloud. IBM Cloud is there, and there are many other clouds also. IBM is there, Oracle is also having their own cloud. But the top three, I would say, uh, AWS is the leading one, and Azure ranks second, and GCP is the third company.
Kishore, one more question.
Okay.
What is meant by cloud? Another question.
Hybrid cloud, as I said in the earlier slides, it is a combination of, for example, you would consider bank, insurance companies. As you can see in the screen, Max Life Insurance is one such customer of cloud computing. So it's like not all the part of Max Life Insurance is completely put onto cloud because they are a bit concerned like what if our data gets compromised, it's in cloud. So what do they do is like they put some part of critical data in their own data center. It's still in their own data center itself, and some part of data is there in cloud. They are using their both on-premise data center, which is completely synced with cloud, and they have some part of data in Azure Cloud Computing. So it's a combination of both public clouds and their own data center. It's a combination of one or two cloud platforms. That's the reason it is called as a hybrid cloud computing.
Another question.
Yeah.
Which cloud service provider is best and cost effective?
So as I hope this question is a repeating question, but still, yes, cost is, I would say, like cost is, there will not be much difference in cost between different service providers. One will offer a cost for certain services, cost will be less with one service provider, and if you go for the other, if you ask me, the Microsoft products, Windows is there, MS SQL is there. It's all dependent on what products you use. So if you think about these components, Microsoft is the best solution because it's their own native product. They will give you certain discounts on licensing costs because the compute cost remains the same. I mean, like the charges for hosting their servers, it remains the same among all the three service providers. A very mere discount will be there between one of, as you could say, it is a competitive price. I would give you for 10 rupees, and the other one will say I'm giving it for 9 rupees. So this is how the difference will be. You need to think what services actually you are using inside. For example, if your entire applications are based on Microsoft products, you are going to use Windows servers, .NET applications, and Visual Studio and MS SQL. Then I would say Azure is the best destination for you because it's all their own products. When you build such applications, Microsoft will guarantee you some sort of discounts on licensing stuffs. So it's all depends on the products and the decision you take.
Okay, Kishore. So another question. Why
Yeah.
do we use virtual machine? Why do we use virtual machines?
Yeah, it's a good question. So earlier in legacy IT period, you used to build one server, which will take up a cupboard size of area, and one server is there. You put in your application inside it, and that's it. That server is occupied for that one particular application alone. After virtualization has came inside into the IT industry, virtualization what it does is like you get the hardware, you install rather than installing an operating system directly. What you are going to do here is you are going to install that virtualization OS inside it, and after you would have worked on Oracle VirtualBox, VMware Workstation. So you have your own Windows machine. You are going to try something in Ubuntu OS. Instead of using Ubuntu because you are not so much familiar with Ubuntu, what you are going to do is your laptop is already having Windows Virtual Machine. What you are doing is you are installing Oracle VirtualBox. Inside Oracle VirtualBox, you are installing Ubuntu OS. So what is happening here is you are using your laptop for both Windows OS, which you are very familiar with, and for your purpose, you are using Ubuntu OS. But end of the day, you are not using two laptops. You are using only one laptop. In the same laptop, you are now using Ubuntu and Windows OS, and this is how you are consolidating. In the similar way, IT enterprises are using the concept in such a way that they will install the virtualization piece of software inside that rack, and they will have n number of virtual machines inside it. One will be having Ubuntu OS, it will be running one application, and one will be having Windows, it will be running one application. So in a single piece of hardware, you are now able to run multiple operating systems, and in multiple operating systems, you are running multiple applications. So this is how it is getting consolidated. So the management becomes very easy for you. So in one server, you are having many applications. That's how the virtualization came into picture. And cloud computing is something interrelated with virtualization itself.
Okay, Kishore. So next question. And cloud provider like AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure, don't they have data servers to store the client details? This is one question, sir.
Yeah, this is the exact what you said is correct. Yeah, they have their own data. Instead of you hosting your data in your own data center, someone else is doing that job for you. So Azure is having a server, and it is not only for you. Public, if you just take public cloud as reference, for example, there are three different companies ABC. Microsoft is offering a public cloud, and there is one rack, one server is there, and there are 100 servers running inside that one physical rack. Among that 100 servers, I would say 30 servers are for A company, 30 servers are for B company, 30 servers are for C company. So all that data is getting saved into their data center in that one particular rack. And different companies will access their own resources only. And yes, the data is physically getting stored in Azure's data center, and no one will have direct contact with each other company's data. And that is segregated by a technology by name SDDN, software defined network, SDDN network.
Yes, Kishore. There's another question from Tilagavati. Airtel
Okay.
is saying they are providing 2 GB cloud space. Whether it will be safe or not. the question, sir.
Yeah, I would say yeah, it will be a safe because like Airtel will have their own hosting space. Usually, cloud service providers like Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, what they tell is like only a limited subset of people only have direct access to their data centers. If I, being a Microsoft employee or Google employee, I go to the data center, I'm not authorized to go inside it. Similarly, Airtel is giving some compute space for you, 2 GB or 10 GB. We also have Dropbox, Google Drive. It is similar to that only. And how you feel secure to save in that G Drive or OneDrive or Dropbox, it is same equivalently. Your data is safe in Airtel. So, like you are putting your raw data inside that storage space. Someone will have physical access to that data, but it's based on a trust that no one is going to tamper your data. It's completely some. There are certain policy regulations, GDPR regulations are there in the IT industry. All these companies will make sure that the company is compliant to that GDPR compliance. So this is based on a trust that, and you also save many of you iOS users are there, iPhone users are there, and they save their data in iCloud. It is equivalent to that only. How safe you feel in storing the data in iCloud, the same uh, equivalently you can feel secure that your data is safe with Airtel also. All these companies will have some GDPR compliances, so they meet that compliances and ensure that your data is secure and privacy is ensured for the data.
Yes, Kishore. One more question. Relationship between cloud encryption and hacking.
Okay. So the encryption is one thing. The data in the cloud data centers are encrypted. Yeah, it is encrypted. In the other way, it is, as I said earlier, it is like a two-way understanding between the cloud service provider and the cloud service user actually. So for an instance, I would give you an example like how a company's data was recently actually hacked by the hackers, though it was provisioned in cloud computing. Uh, it was actually a database, so it was deployed in one server. It is a testing POC, proof of concept database, so it was not restricted to the outside world. Though the VM is in cloud computing, the data still resides in cloud computing. A company was using it. What they did was they didn't make sure that the network restrictions were properly put in place for that particular server. The network was completely exposed to the internet. For example, hackers, what they will do, they will take a scanner. They have many tools. Nmap tool is there, IP scanner tools are there. What they will do, they will scan the entire whole internet. They will put certain ports. For SQL database 1433, there is a port where SQL runs. They will target that port and they will run the scan. So whatever IP that port will listen, they will make a note of that IP. They will initiate different type of target attacks. So when this network was not restricted and database authentication was not properly configured, the hacker was able to take control of that database from different hacking tools. So he was able to penetrate to the database and he hacked it. And what he did was he deleted the database itself, and he created an encrypted file. When you click on that file, it would set a message like you have to pay some money, and once you pay that money, we will give you the data back, or else like we will put it in a public forum, we'll release it. You didn't properly secure the client's data, and we will put it in your company's data will be leaked on with. This is how ransomware works. To ensure that the data put in cloud is secure, it's a shared responsibility. The cloud service provider ensures that the data in cloud is secure. In the same way, you are also supposed to make sure that the provisioned resources are properly secure. And till now, I haven't heard cases of data breaches happening inside the cloud platform. I mean, the cloud data centers. There are not so much reported cases. I haven't heard it till my experience. I haven't heard like data was hacked from Azure data centers. So it might happen when there is a like misconfigurations in the client sides. Where if we don't configure the security settings properly, yes, there are chances of cloud data getting compromised.
Yes, Kishore. One more question. Cloud service providers can access our data. Can access our data. Cloud service providers.
Yeah, there are some chances of accessing the data because they have physical access to the data center. but it's based on the trust. As I said, these companies have many compliances, and they will also have some audits. So based on these compliances and audits from different companies, it is based on a trust that our data is safe in the cloud data center. And yes, end of the day, yeah, if a guy from Microsoft data center goes inside the data center and tries to steal some data, end of the day it is possible, and it's all based on a trust that you are putting the data in the data center. So cloud service provider ensures that your data is not tampered and is not used by them in any means. That's the reason few of the banking companies, banking and financial sectors, BFS services, have still not moved their data, considering the same data risk. And government projects also, defense projects, and few applications have not moved their data to cloud computing. And recently, most of the US governments have started to use the cloud computing, considering the trust that the data is still secure with the cloud service providers.
Yes. Last question. Salesforce.com provides what type of service? So this is the question asked.
If I remember, even they are onto cloud, they might offer typical type of stuff, but actually I'm really not sure what Salesforce is offering inside their cloud platform. It can be either, as I said, like cloud is only going to offer you three types of services. It is categorized in three types of services: IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. SaaS is some kind of a direct SaaS software offering. They will, for example, CRM, customer relationship management is there. Sibyl is one sort of customer relationship management tool. So if they are offering such kind of softwares, they will give you on a based on like this many users, you're going to this much money, and they will completely offer that software as a service. And end of the day, it is categorized into three categories, as I said: in infrastructure as a service, PaaS, SaaS. So they might also offer the same kind of service as these cloud service providers are offering.
Okay, thank you, Kishore. So now I invite Principal Sir to take over the session.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Oh,
Audible.
thank you. So wonderful presentation by Kishore sir. Really super. So I have one small question.
Yes, sir.
Recently, a question on blockchain development, software development, and all. In what way this cloud is going to help this blockchain?
Can you repeat the question, sir?
Sir, recently we have conducted a webinar on blockchain development.
Block site development.
Blockchain, Bitcoin.
Blockchain. Okay. Mhm.
Yeah. So how far this cloud is going to provide a security and all for that blockchain?
The first thing is like when it especially comes to finance services, the availability is one important thing. So the sites or the payment system, everything needs to be available all the time. The cloud service has many high availability and redundancy kind of technologies within itself. It makes sure that your service is available all the time, and you have, based on the cost mechanism, you think and decide. The high availability is ensured properly. For example, as I said, like the primary region is Mumbai for Google Cloud, and they have three zones within that. And one payment system, or like the transfer money transfer system, is taken care by one system, and that particular server is shared across all the zones. For example, if zone A is going to become down now, the requests are catered by the other two zones. This is high availability is one such feature you can avail from cloud computing to ensure that the blockchain system remains stable all the time. And as I said, for security, it again remains with the both the parties. One is the cloud service provider and the cloud service technology adapter. So he should also ensure that certain protocols are there that needs to be followed to make sure his systems are stable with respect to the security concerns. The cloud security provider, like they have many tools within the platform, which gives you recommendation what to do, what not to do, what resources vulnerable to which particular set of threats, what can be done to fix that vulnerability. So a very detailed information is given in the cloud there is many tools, like Azure provides a tool by name Advisor. So the primary role of Advisor is like it makes frequent search within the Azure portal itself, it will give certain recommendations. It will list out what security settings are improper and what threat is there if you don't do that proper configuration. If we follow that recommendation, I would say 90% of the cloud security is ensured, and the rest 10% remains on the configuration. How the people have a better habit of setting uncomplex passwords like admin 123, admin password welcome 123. So these kind of passwords should be avoided. So this is an additional level of security to ensure that application remains very secure. So you should have some sort of difficult asterisks, as I mean, like special characters. So if you follow all these protocols, I would say like none of these cloud resources will get compromised. We as an organization, I have been working with L&T for more than 2 years. We have several websites working in different client locations. So we do have sensitive data running in cloud platform. So those data is encrypted in different mechanisms. We do have certain internal encryption mechanisms which is offered by cloud also. There is a vault which generates a timely keys. You can encrypt that data with that particular key, and it gets expired after a certain period of time. For example, you are an outsider, so I would give you access for my storage directly, and I can grant you only certain limited access. I can grant you only read access. You can just see the content. You cannot modify it. You cannot delete it, and that access can expire in a certain period of time. And I will give you an encryption key. That content is only going to get accessed by encryption key. I can track from what IP you are accessing that data. So it is a very controlled approach, like how you can grant access to your cloud resources, and that technology, security technology, is well incorporated within that portal itself. So I would say, like, if you follow the proper protocols, yes, the cloud data is very secure, like how you manage the data in your own data center.
Thank you very much, Kishore. Wonderfully answered. I'm really happy to share our heartfelt thanks to you. And on behalf of SMK Fomra, I thank you and your organization L&T for having deputed you to share your wonderful ideas to all our students and faculty members and also the visitors. So on behalf of SMK Fomra, I once again thank you for your wonderful presentation. Very nicely explained all the things. Thank you very much, sir. And I request Gandhi to conclude the meeting, please.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, all. On behalf of SMK FIT, I take this opportunity to propose vote of thanks to this webinar on cloud computing organized by our institute. I thank our speaker, Mr. Kishore Deenadayalan. We are really enlightened with your knowledge and presence, sir. Thank you, sir. And I thankful to our management correspondent, sir, Sri Kumar Fomraji, and joint correspondent, Madam Neha Fomraji, and our principal, sir, Dr. V. Krishna Kumar. We move to end of the today webinar session. Thank you, sir.
So we
So
cordially
thanks.
invite Mr. Kishore to visit our campus once the pandemic is over, sir. We are very much thankful to you, and we will be happy to receive you again, sir.
Thank you, sir. I would thank you also for granting me this opportunity. To this, I would take this opportunity to interact with many of the students. It was pleasure to give them some of the knowledge that I gathered in my professional work experience. So it was nice meeting you all, and I would thank you for providing me this opportunity. Thank you, respected principal, sir, HOD, and everyone who gave me this opportunity.
Very kind of you, sir. Have a nice weekend. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, sir. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.